Jeffrey Epstein made the plot of Injustice sorta age like sour milk, whether it be the games or comics I've read through. Now for context of this crazy video title and statement. Let's just say that it all comes down to leadership. Motivated by the death of Lois and his unborn child in tandem with the destruction of Metropolis, all of which just due to the Joker alone, Superman goes on to do what the government can't or won't when legal due process fails. He starts saving lives beyond his own borders, he slowly starts to take control and even reduces pollution, and becomes way stricter on crime, and overall this works so well that the god of war Ares, who's fueled by conflict, literally is concerned and starts starving later by the time of Injustice 1. Now the debate that makes this bad is how Superman is stricter in a way that has restricted freedom overall, in a way that may be too reliant on fear. But honestly, fear may seem to be the perfect substitution for one's lack of intelligence or good morals, hence why one can be in favor of Superman's tactics, likely being justified, especially in the case of Gotham, when he was sending a bunch of those vile criminals to a secure regime facility via Cyborg's teleportation, instead of them staying in Arkham, where they get out dozens upon dozens of times killing innocent people for no reason over BS like not being able to solve some twink's riddle when you're just trying to get to your giga blue-collar job, and would beat his ass if you were locked in a cell with him.
Joker tells us to kill the bat, we kill the bat.
Joker told me to kill my sister once.
Did you do it?
Hell yeah! Never liked her anyway.
You're cold, man. Funny thing, he said the same to me. I told him I didn't even have a sister. He just kept telling me to do it. So I got in my car, ran over the first bitch I saw. Joker seemed happy.
Now before I circle back to Injustice, let's just veer off into Jeffrey Epstein. Desensitizing memes aside, we all heard the stories and I fear that YouTube won't let me talk about it without punishing me for it. So I'll keep it brief since people have already heard what happened in the parts of those files we got to see that involved many people. Some just listed off for being there regardless of if they did or knew anything or not, or others being PDF files doing the unspeakable to children in tandem with their deaths and torture-filled lives via the many things that happened there. We know that various people who work for the government were directly involved with it, and yet nothing happened. Legal due process, as usual, failed. Probably due to everything about this tying into a certain white and blue country Jeffrey is tied to, but anyway. With all that context out of the way, these are the people that rule us within first world countries mostly. And we're really going to go after Superman motivated by nothing but the greater good that could have saved his family.
You thought you could fool me, Bruce? Like he did? This isn't about Joker. It's about you. I perfected this world. So many lives lost because I held back when I should have used all my power. For what? To control? To oppress? I could have prevented Metropolis, saved my family! Crime took my family too, Clark. But you weren't the gun. Now.
I'm sorry, Bruce, but as bad as it was for you to lose your parents in the way that you did with a good father figure, butler, and wealth to fall back on, but that isn't as bad as losing your wife and unborn child at your own mind-altered hands as your city you were supposed to protect gets nuked. He already lost Krypton, he won't lose Earth. As also expressed in Injustice 2, where Batman, as goofy as he was in this game, wanted to let a planet-destroying non-human threat like Brainiac live, despite him trying to destroy Earth, just like what he did with Krypton and other planets, with the reason or excuse being that they need him to help restore the shrunk cities, to which we don't even know they'll be able to make Brainiac do, and I'd honestly assume Brainiac would be too spiteful to do that himself. Snyderverse Batman absolutely wrecks Injustice Batman, by the way. You don't see Snyder's Batman getting into a fight with Wonder Woman because of her killing Steppenwolf after he also tried to destroy the planet. But anyway, back on topic.
You should want Brainiac dead more than anyone. Instead, you're undermining me.
Thank Rao your father can't see you. When General Zod tried to take over Krypton, Jor-El led the fight against him. That's who you come from. That's who you are, Cal. Not this.
If Jor-El had been more like Zod, he might have saved Krypton. And I will save the Earth.
He doesn't even sound that evil in both of those clips that embody his mindset as to why he's doing what he's doing, especially in comparison to what I delved into with Jeffrey. But despite that, I will acknowledge the cons of Injustice Superman doing bad things whether it be the books or games. But this is where I criticize the writing of Injustice despite me liking those games and books. But the problem is that Superman is right, especially when we compare him to the Western governments of today that exist only to serve the certain white and blue territory I'm not allowed to talk about, as they poison our food, media, the minds of our women, and job markets with goy slop. But to take away from Superman being right, the writers need to make him do ridiculous bad things to pollute his right answer. They need to make him desire to destroy large parts of Gotham and Metropolis to make an example apparently, and then after that they need to make him kill a kid like Shazam. I guess the debate is if absolute power has to corrupt absolutely, and as much as that has happened before, I think there's enough cases where it hasn't. I think more times than not, outside of a few ridiculously evil moments of Injustice Superman would be a better dictator than our governments practically are, with politicians you vote for hardly mattering. Hell, Injustice Superman, despite those moments, still isn't as bad as what happened in those Epstein files. When I tried making sure I didn't miss anything by looking up a list of the worst things Injustice Superman ever did, most of the kills, as bad as some of them were mostly him killing people trying to stop him, who were practically Satanists, who worshipped the Joker, who nuked Metropolis. We give Harley Quinn a pass though for helping the Joker do that, for some reason that shouldn't even be valid because gender double standards of Batman trusting Harley Quinn and a regime member like Catwoman over Flash who flipped and helped them, or Green Lantern who at least surrendered. But anyway, despite the writer's efforts to put down Injustice Superman morally, I still think he's just great at worst, or sorta just more white in comparison to worse leaders, whether it be reality or not. Sure, Superman wanted to take away guns too, but unlike first world countries like joke-ass Canada, not wanting resistance to their freedom suppression on minor things like going into the woods or defending yourself, Superman on the other hand was honestly making that call for the greater good with safety in mind, since Superman and Flash could fly around the world and get most of them out of the hands of actual criminals, instead of just the people who have them to defend themselves. And unlike certain countries, whether it be the past or modern day, they aren't taking them away to stop citizens from opposing them, since guns or most weapons don't work on just about every Justice League member. Superman wasn't even a quarter as bad as the Empire from Star Wars. When Superman destroyed a planet, it was a planet that was attacking him and his regime, instead of one that was innocently in space. Hell, both bad and good characters of each elemental nation in Avatar: The Last Airbender had dictators. When the evil Fire Lord Ozai was defeated, they just replaced him and Azula with Zuko after everything was said and done, and it was definitely presented as a good ending. The point is, as Anakin once said, the concept of one man being wiser than the internet or media influenced masses, a strong-willed person who would be more likely to make the right calls people won't, isn't a bad idea, so long as they get the right person and not Emperor Palpatine. There's many cases where people vote for what hurts them. Just look at nearly everything most women vote for on average. They hate racism and also rightfully hate worrying about their safety of not being stalked, but will vote for certain things that contradict that, as no other ethnic group gets to work at Tim Hortons and various other jobs, whether it be Canada or not. There's already a lack of democracy anyway when there's bills that get passed despite people voting against it. But anyway, there's too many tangents I could veer off into with this subject, but I'll condense it by saying there's too many pieces of media that puts down vigilante justice, that goes against legal due process, that pushes against legal due process in an actual meaningful way. As our buddy Resikin and I have talked about, we have a more mid-Batman movie with the most recent The Batman movie, where Riddler, who's different from his usual adaptations, isn't really a bad guy at all when he's killing corrupt government leaders in ties with the Mafia, along with killing the Mafia members themselves like Carmine Falcone. But to make Riddler evil, they need to make him bomb all of Gotham and cause a flood. Just like in Justice Superman, they had to pollute the right answer with some actual evil. No idea how some people put one of the least grossing Batman movies over the others that didn't do this BS and did deeper things. And then when media doesn't demonize the concept of men taking the greater good into their own hands, they tend to demonize it. Like the Star Wars prequels, where that was blatantly the theme of the prequels, when the Republic rotted with each movie due to Palpatine's influence, and once the Jedi noticed, they gave their best effort to try and put an end to the Sith, as both Mace Windu and Yoda gave their best efforts to arrest or kill the Emperor, despite failing, only for Luke and the Rebellion to go against the government and then take them down when they weren't acting in the best interest of the people. But you see, first world Western brain rot critics from the past, or around the early 2000s and 2010s, up till the modern day, put the prequels down in a way that I honestly assume is something done in a planted fashion by Hollywood ran by the white and blue, who hated George Lucas because he wasn't as controlled by them, and made movies that sort of conveyed how to deal with their Epstein-esque perversions of government. He even called them white slavers in an interview. So they started an internet bandwagon on the prequels because they knew what he cooked for those willing to think, instead of pointing at Jar Jar and complaining about pioneered CGI to justify not thinking as they go on to watch a dumb Marvel movie. Hell, the bandwagons of a similar fashion still continues today, with another DC example, like Black Adam, that had a similar message of violence being the answer when legal due process fails, as the American government sends the Justice Society in, only after Black Adam fought back against a terrorist organization, trampling all over his country, only for one of the main Justice Society members, Dr. Fate, to somewhat concede and admit that Black Adam was right about how to act for the betterment of Kahndaq. This movie was bashed by the internet as well. Even though it beat every DCEU movie that wasn't a Snyder movie, such as the Shazam movies, or most of Gunn's slop apart from a really high tier character like Superman, despite a China ban. But anyway, this is honestly a video I felt the need to make for many reasons, one of which being Injustice being negatively criticized for all of the wrong reasons, such as Superman being evil being complained about, even though it's a whole point of Injustice, and even despite that, they still portray the good version of Superman from a normal universe, who we see within the first cutscene of the game, not counting the beginning flashback, who also resolves the conflict at the end of the game. Similar to the Justice League episode in the animated series, this evil version of Superman never dominated the image of Superman despite people pointing at some nightmare Batman dream of Superman in BVS being evil and working for Darkseid, even though that once again happened in Superman the Animated Series. They also say the same thing about Injustice Wonder Woman, even though the same applies to her, as is the case in that episode of the animated series that nobody bitched at. I found Injustice Wonder Woman to still be interesting too, despite her sorta being more evil than Superman and pushing him down this path more, due to many reasons such as wanting to be with him, which is honestly cool to me since women have more of a tendency to be more corrupt and petty when they get put into positions of authority, with various examples, such as clips online of them just getting ego as cops, like arresting a blind man for just standing.
Hi there! What's this in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
It's a navigational age. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes, sir. I was investigating.
You have reasonable.
Do you want me to put you in handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
Sir, you legally blind? Yes, I am.
I have no idea why it became so trendy for vocal minority bots to bash the Injustice series for these petty reasons, when they sold very well as comic books to the point of being the most successful superhero video game tie-in comics, and probably being up there when it comes to video game comics overall, and are around the top 10 sold superhero video games ever that beat the Marvel vs. Capcom games in sales, and has more of a player base after 2 years than slop like Invincible Versus had in less than a month. But anyway, overall I think it's up to the viewers of media to be more conscious, even if they had to defy the views of the writers themselves, like they did when they thought Rorschach from Watchmen was cool for killing criminals like PDF files and standing up to a god by being unyielding in his values to tell the truth no matter what, even though the author Alan Moore saw him as a parody, as if anyone but the author could know that as the intent. Overall, I don't think Injustice Superman was completely evil, and I think Epstein made the viewpoint of him being such age like sour milk, and I honestly think you'd have to be a physically incapable, flimsy little bitch that's too avoidant and scared of violence and conflict to disagree. There's many things in this world that only make sense when you force it to. But to end on a more positive example of Superman in another Elseworlds continuity comic, which, you know, are usually the best DC comics, we have The Dark Knight Strikes Again Superman, which is a sequel to The Dark Knight Returns, where Superman was obedient to the United States government to the point where he fought Batman just because they wanted him to, due to Batman doing what they couldn't when he came out of retirement to help Gotham. Funny enough, some people were critical of Frank Miller's Superman being like that despite loving the book. But funnier enough, they also hated Superman even more in the sequel to that comic that was also hated by the usual vocal minority culprits when he did the opposite of that, when Superman's daughter he had with Wonder Woman put herself in danger to try and stop Brainiac, who was working with Lex Luthor and his AI president to be an evil dictatorship controlling the world that would go on to use laser cannon satellites to reduce the world's population so it would be easier to control the remaining people. And with the endangerment of his daughter, Superman breaks free from that passive, obedient, faith in a broken system mindset, and finally stops pulling punches with a world that will destroy itself if he lets it.
Ma? Pa? You were wrong. I will always cherish your memory, but you were wrong. I will always cherish this planet and its creatures, but you were wrong. I am not one of them. I am not human. It took my own daughter and my darkest rival, my despised opponent, to teach me I am not human, and I am no man's servant. I am no man's slave. I will not be ruled by the laws of men. I am no man. I am Superman!